All right. Hello, everyone. My name's Joanna, and I'm from Quest, and I'd like to welcome you to today's Reconnect Deep Dive session. I do have a few reminders before we start. All attendees will remain muted throughout the session. However, if you would like to be unmuted to ask a question, please use the raise the hand feature, and then we will be able to give you permission to speak at that time. Attendees can also type your questions in the question and answer module in the Zoom toolbar, and we will address questions at the end of the session. Okay, at this time, I will turn things over to our speaker, Gary Draninkowski. All right.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today's session. How efficiencies built into Atlassian Jira support tracking drive best practices and strategic projects. So a little bit about me before we get started here. My name is Gary Draninkowski. I'm a managing director with SpearMC. I focus mostly in managed services, training, and analytics. My contact information is there. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I've been doing PeopleSoft for over 20 years. 15 years of that has been spent focused on enterprise reporting and analytics, but always dealing back with PeopleSoft as well. So over time, just expanding that out to, the really well-rounded suite of product and areas of focus, including managed services and training. So I'm also an instructor and author of our Kibana Analytics and Open Search Dashboards class, and I manage several of our managed services customers, particularly the ones in the title there. So I started with Spear in late 2019, and we were really building up our managed services practice, and so we went through kind of an exercise of figuring out what tool we want to use for managed services for capturing all of our issues, and we ended up going with Jira from Atlassian, or a flavor of that Jira Service Desk, I think, or service management. There's a couple variations of that, but at the end of the day, there was a lot of flexibility with that tool and reporting and things that we could get out of that tool that really drove what we were hoping to leverage as we captured information from there. And the nice thing about that product is it's kind of you configure, set up, and implement it yourself. It's a cloud-based product for project management, service desks, et cetera. There's a lot of configurations delivered, et cetera, that you can use. So that's kind of a little bit about me and how I got started down this path with managed services and the Atlassian product. All right, a little bit more about SpearMC. We are a full-service PeopleSoft consulting firm. We do everything PeopleSoft, managed services, consulting, training, platform, emerging technologies, and we also have our proprietary products. So, a lot of, I said I have 20 years of PeopleSoft experience. I'm probably, an average of our folks, in the amount of experience we have. So definitely a very deep group of folks that I work with, a lot of great knowledge. We're very well recognized as a firm. Oracle Specialties, SOC 2 certification, which is very important for a lot of customers, as you look to find a partner to do things in. Maybe there are things like SOC 2 or some other type of certification that you need to make sure that they have. Additionally, we also are Gartner recognized in the 2023 guide for Oracle professional services. So always proud to show those accolades. The last slide before I really get started here is about some upcoming training that we have. And I just like to show this slide because it's just an area that I focus in. Training at SpearMC, I'm involved with delivering the first class there. developed it and delivered it. And then some of the other ones I've been involved with getting these set up. And then some of my colleagues have spent a lot of time over the past, 5 years, really, perfecting these classes to the point where, they're just really good, right? I mean, any type of bugs that were there at a point in time have been worked out, and it's a lot of information that you can get. These are all public classes, but we also have private classes and our all access learning as well. All right, enough with the background. So let's talk a little bit about what I want to cover today. So I want to talk about best practices for support in a healthcare setting. And I say in a healthcare setting, it doesn't have to be healthcare. It's just the two customers I'm highlighting here happen to be healthcare. So, I view not only utilizing the software that we're capturing information in, but ways to actually prevent us from even getting to tickets and things like that. So I like to spend a little bit of time at the beginning to talk about that, right? Because that's something you can walk away here from instantly. And a lot of these things you may already be doing, but sometimes I like to just confirm so that people understand, exactly what type of approach should you be taking. And then obviously, and I get down into these various case studies. These are all customers that we have currently, and we are utilizing Jira and capturing information from. All right, so really the philosophy in what we try to instill to our customers and really organizationally is, to our customers really is, and we try to be that partner, right? So, but we're saying find a partner with industry experience. As I mentioned, I personally have over 20 plus years of experience. Our entire organization has experience, and we have folks that have worked in public sector. We have a strong grants practice. We have a lot of healthcare experience, but we also have folks that have worked in other verticals. So from an industry perspective, we're very well covered. Now, while we're very well covered from an industry perspective, I would say we're even more covered from a product perspective, right? So we do PeopleSoft. Everything we do, I don't say everything we do is PeopleSoft. I would say everything we do starts with PeopleSoft, right? So we have, at different times branched out into different areas, but they've always had some sort of, proliferation back into PeopleSoft one way or another. And that's either how we started or how we ended up in those situations. So, but from a product expertise, again, find a partner that really knows the product and can help you, right? It's one thing to just fix a problem and fix it today, but you want to make sure that when you fix something, how do you prevent it from coming back? And sometimes, that is easier said than done. Sometimes you think it's just a one-off thing, and then it does come back, and you realize you might have to spend a little more time getting to that thing. But as an organization, when you're looking for that partner, you want somebody whose visions align with your goals, right? So are you an organization that likes to take on the latest and greatest, right? Is this company willing to do that? Or are you somebody that prefers to wait a little bit and then go once all the bugs have been ironed out? Is, who you're partnering with willing to do that? And, sometimes, we adjust with each of our customers. Internally, we may be doing a lot of work to stay on the cutting edge, but we're not going to force anybody to go somewhere they don't want to go. The application and roadmaps and all these sort of tie together, right? So your application maintenance and roadmap, leverage best strategies, right? So how are you getting there? Do you have a plan to get there, right? Is everything reactive, or are you proactive? Are you actually looking and saying, okay, well, we know that to go through this process, we're going to have to take a couple of months to, we're looking at, every 2 months, 3 months to have to go through some sort of update, or are we looking to do that every 6 months or every year? So a lot of different ways you can do to look at that. All right. These are some things on the next few slides that we really talk about from just, many of you had PeopleSoft system for 10, 15 plus years, right? And the design when this product was implemented may or may not have been a good design, or maybe your business. I mean, everything has evolved over time, right? You may have put customizations in that now they're no longer required. One, because the functionality is delivered. Maybe the customization is there because an ancillary system that you previously used needed some information to be available, either inbound or outbound, whatever, right? But that's why it was there, and that no longer is the case, right? So you want to look at different ways to simplify and reduce your PeopleSoft system. Ways to do that include, like I said, design type things from a customization perspective, and I think we'll get into that a little bit with the leverage emerging tech and some of those things. But there's also the intuitive design and providing self-help documentation, process. So a lot of different ways to really minimize the amount of support that your organization needs. So again, once you get to the point of support, we will talk about that, utilizing Jira, the information that's in there. But how do you really, it's not always about how you react to support. How do you prevent support too, right? So let's go through and talk about a few of those, right? So one way to do that is minimize complexity, eliminating special requirements. And that's sort of what I touched on there a minute ago, talking about unique things. Leverage page and field configure, right? So instead of writing a customization, utilizing that tool, and that tool's been around now for a few years. And I think folks often utilize it. I don't know if it's 100% utilized as much as it could be, but definitely a way to reduce some of the customizations out there. And then bringing offline forms and processes into PeopleSoft, that's another way to just streamline your overall process and keep things moving, right? So here's an example of page and field configurator. You see here, this is the before, and there is the after, right? So you have, I'll switch back there. There's two highlighted boxes. You got system source, PPC, and it says responsible party under that. But here, you can see it said system source and then activity owner. So with page and field configurator, we did that through page and field configurator, not through a customization, but it's changing the label based on the value that goes in there. Previously, that would have been a customization. Now, you can simplify that, make that something that just happens as part of your upgrade, not something that has to be reapplied. You still would want to test for those type of scenarios when you're going through an upgrade, but that's just an example of one, right? Another one, invest in training and automated self-help, right? So there's a lot of tools out there for automated self-help and or training, right? You think about chatbots, you think about Oracle guided learning, right? All of these things, if you allow people to avoid creating a ticket or prevent, you're not preventing them, you're just trying to help them so they don't have to get to the point of creating an issue. So self-help, one could be related contents and actions, right? So you build into your system these actions that folks can then navigate to a different area based on maybe some use cases that from here, right? It's just point and click to a menu, and there's no additional wording or anything like that guiding you through this process. This is kind of just a simple, this is where you are and this is where you can go from here, right? Another example would be chatbots. A lot of folks, really like the chatbots. You build out ways to ask the bot a question. You're getting answers. It will, again, take you to where you want to be. But it's kind of happening here within the chat framework. And, now with Oracle guided learning, personally, I think there's different opinions on this. I actually like Oracle guided learning. There's other use cases for chatbots, but for a lot of the stuff you're doing within PeopleSoft, I really like guided learning. And for those of you that are not familiar with this, I highly recommend checking out one of the presentations that Cameron McClurg from SpearMC has given this week. We've spent really the last year and a half to 2 years building out an entire library of these learning guides. And this is a technology that is used by Oracle Cloud that really guides users through processes, right? So similar to a chatbot, you might come in here and search for, how do I create a PO? And then, or you might just put in purchase order, and then it's going to say, do you want to create a PO? Do you want to process a PO? Do you want to request? Do you want to, get a requisition, right? Whatever it may be related to that, it's going to give you a bunch of options. And then once you click on that, it will actually guide you through the system. So it is training, but it's not really training because you are walking through the system with this guided process, right? Guided learning. So it's not in a training environment, though it is in your live system. It's a really good tool. So again, another way to reduce the number of calls you're getting into your help desk, the number of help desk tickets that you have opened, the guided learning, all these things, they're not going to prevent all of your calls, right? So as with guided learning, as with chatbots, right? You need to anticipate what people were asking. If we could anticipate every question that was ever going to be asked, none of us would have a job. So it does help, though. The more the product, your user base, you can kind of anticipate. But again, taking me back to where we're going to go later, talking about Jira, as we go and look at tickets that exist in Jira, we may say, oh, I see that I have 20 people asking, how do I change my address for my paycheck, right? And I want my pay stub to go one place, right? And so you may have a guide then that takes you to there. So that's just another example. All right. Now let's move on a little bit about this kind of support structure and system, right? So the 4 things you really want to do here: establish a centralized platform for issue management, communications protocol and schedule, process for prioritizing work, and then a knowledge base. So you're going to capture a lot of information. How do you get that back out? How do you actually get in there and figure out what's in there, and how do you use that to your advantage? All right. Support system and structure. Again, these are all ways that you will things you want to look for who you're supporting. You want leaders in the PeopleSoft community, people that are up to date on things that are happening, people that are respected in the system. Do they have ties to Oracle's leadership team, the support team, the product development team, right? These are all things that help as an organization when you hire a partner to help you support your system and you have an issue. If you have an organization that's tightly coupled with Oracle, they have some hooks in possibly that you may or may not have. You just may be able to speed up the process from time to time. Sometimes it's personal relationships you've made with people over the years. You want someone that will leverage all that PeopleSoft has to offer, right? No interest in implementing needless customization. This goes again. Let's simplify, create everything based off of ask. Don't be afraid to ask the questions when it comes to why you do something. And just because you've been doing it for 20 years isn't a good answer, or because the person that did it before you did it that way. But do you really know why certain things happen? And sometimes it doesn't matter, but when you had to customize, build a separate process to maintain something, that definitely is something you want to avoid. Industry best practices, strategic roadmap service. This is something that SpearMC, we talk about this all the time with our customers, right? Like, let's look at, what your plan is for the next 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, right? Like, have an idea of where you're going. And that is so important because that's going to drive, things that you may want to implement additional modules. I mean, there are customers that are considering going to maybe a new product, and how does all that fit in? Again, make sure that there are experts that can support all of the pillars that you have, whether we're talking HCM, FSCM, campus, and then even modules within them. Sometimes you've got more specialized modules if you have leases or grants. Those are areas that tend to have a more specialized area. And then finally, someone that can do not only supporting, implementing new modules, but demos, training, right? If you can have a one-stop shop, that is definitely a way, just in my opinion, it's so nice when we have a customer that we work with all the time and we're doing the end-to-end training, demos, everything, right? Because we understand their business. We're there with them on a daily basis. And when it comes time to take on something new, we understand what's involved, not only from just a basic configuration, but also what do you call them? Organizational challenges that you may have in getting something to the finish line. All right. Now here, I'm just going to talk about a few case studies that we have had for customers where we're doing support. So the first one will be Parkview Health. Parkview Health is an organization in Indiana, and they are running both PeopleSoft HCM and FSCM. A few years ago, they brought on SpearMC to take over their support. They were looking for somebody to not only support them and fix their issues, but really from a functional and understanding of everything. Let's not just throw a developer at it, code around it, make a fix, database SQL update. Let's look at the issues when they come, when they're given to us, and determine what the root underlying cause is. And as we look at these, are we seeing the same stuff happening? Are we able to prevent this in the future? And, in some cases, we went back and we re-implemented a module because a module wasn't implemented effectively, or we may have, put a new module in based on, hey, we see a ton of issues with integrations to this third-party system. So, PeopleSoft has a module that can do that. That, is a industry-leading software. What you have over here is somewhat specialized, but there are just a lot of challenges. So let's, find that. I mean, really a holistic approach to everything they were doing. PeopleSoft, that was the type of partner that they were looking to. So as we started out, focused just in supporting their application, both functionally and technically, we then got involved in a lot of other areas within the organization: special projects, segregation of duties, grants, re-implementation is kind of what I was talking about. We did an entire P2P project there, and then we also implemented our custom labor distribution module as well. But as they were looking at support, one of the areas they wanted to do was reduce support costs per hour, and also looking to integrate, whatever service desk that the consulting firm that was supporting them, make sure that it was integrated with their overall service desk, right? So that was one of the things we did initially, was we figured out how to pass information between their Sharewell and our Jira Service Desk, right? And as we implemented Jira Service Desk, we talked to them to understand, what type of metrics, what type of information are you interested in as we work through these tickets, right? Because you might have, number of hours people worked on it, might be, standard stuff, time that people had it open. But, then there's other things like which module, or within Jira Service Desk, you can use the concept of labels. So then you can add additional just one-off labels that provide some robust reporting as you go through all this information. So every week when I meet with this team, I have a dashboard that we look at and, just follow the trends within the system. And then we may dig in at other times, or I'll go through a report and I meet with them quarterly to really talk about, hey, this is what we saw. And we noticed, between January and May, we saw a huge spike here, and then it leveled off, but then it went up again in March, right? So now we can start looking at, well, what were the issues, right? And you can dig in to figure out, well, maybe during those times we had, I don't know off the top of my head, I don't recall what the issue was, but I think we released a new module or something, and that was what caused the spike there. It was an integration, and there was a quarterly process, I think is what happened. But, we did see, an uptick in tickets a couple times. So we were able to then take a step back and really fix that at the root rather than have it continue to reoccur. And that really brings me to, this leverage data that I have written here, right? Addressing hotspots, really creating that blueprint, right? So this blueprint, and we use this again, roadmap, blueprint, whatever term you want to use, we are using that to help us drive these strategic projects, whether that is, we know that we're going to be going through PUM projects and tools projects, but having this view of, okay, we know over the next year, we're going to have that, we're going to have our 1099s during this time, but we have some windows here. And I really think based on everything that, we've seen, if we implement this new module, or if we get rid of this module because, it's not really used, and, we're having those conversations. It's not always new stuff. Sometimes it's eliminating stuff as well. Next one, oops, that's a mislabel there, case study. And this one was North Mississippi Health Services. These guys came to Spear MC for help doing a lift and shift of AWS. And this is sort of an ongoing project that we have there, but we're doing technical and functional support, testing as a service there. So we've gone through, set up all of their, got automated testing going, so that as we go through the upgrades and even the lift and shift, we're able to utilize some automated testing there as part of this project. Couple other customers where we're doing some extensive support. I guess not extensive, but these are sort of just one-off supports. We're doing both of these have support related to our grants product, as well as our labor distribution product. So something that, we've developed a labor distribution bolt-on, which allows us to get individual costs, and it's a whole module that allows us to see that tied, towards these projects. And it's a bolt-on, so a lot of the customers, they don't have the knowledge in-house to support that, and so we've set up these one-off contracts. But again, we are setting up the Jira system to capture all the information and, look at, areas of issues, I guess I should say, right? And so in Jira, there's a lot of different reporting that you can do. So we're able to pull out keywords, and if we see certain things showing up, we are using that information to then take it back to our development team that has built this distribution bolt-on, and they are then utilizing that information to enhance the product so that we can then put out future iterations of the product that have the latest enhancements and fixes in them, very similar to the way Oracle sells PeopleSoft. That's exactly the way this is being set up. So I know that wasn't a super long presentation on all of these, so I wanted to leave a little bit of time, and we have 14 or so people in this meeting, but are there any questions or items that folks are interested in discussing as it relates to support and PeopleSoft? Now I'll look in the chat here in QA, or anything even specific related to Jira. And I apologize, I turned my clock on. I did this earlier, and I just did it again, where I'm showing like 40 minutes, 45 minutes in, and that's because I started my presentation 15 minutes before, but that's the clock I was basing on. And so I was talking pretty fast, and I may have even skipped through a slide or two as I was going through that.
Hey, Gary, we have a small group, so I can just unmute everyone and
Okay.
we can just go from there. Okay.
All right. All right. So if anybody wants to ask a question, you can unmute yourself through the control panel. Any questions? Jessica, I don't know if you had a question or if you were just your mic was breaking up. If you were asking a question, you can type it in the Q&A. If she dropped. Oh, no. Okay. Any other questions? No, go ahead.
I was going to say Jessica's mic doesn't seem to be working. If you want to just put your question in the Q&A, and then we can address it that way. All right. No questions.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. I appreciate your time. And if there are any questions that anyone has, feel free to reach out to me. Guess it's good to end a few minutes early on the last session of the day, right?
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a great day.